Um, Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's session. My name is Panashe Ndolvu, and I'm a social entrepreneur passionate about supporting people to realize their innate potential. In today's episode, we're going to focus on equipping you with the core skill set you need to self develop the mental capacity to identify and find your own business ideas. Now, in the last episode, we uncovered how you can tap into your ideation zone, translate those ideas from imagination into reality, and unleash those ideas. So, in today's episode, we will focus on a specific set of ideas, business ideas. Here, as a few ideas, business ideas. You can start a restaurant, you can start a daycare center. And this one reminds me of Jedi Daycare, the movie, how Martin Lawrence, was it? No, it was not Martin Lawrence. I don't remember the main actor in that film, but they just decided, these dads, decided to start a daycare center from a joke, right? And here's another business idea: open an online store. Now, here's something that I would like to focus on a bit. All of these three that I've mentioned are great ideas, and you can literally start right now to plan how can I how can I start such a business? How can I venture into some of these, these sectors, these different sectors? But the truth about business ideas um, is that it always depends on who you are, your unique way of thinking, right? How you frame ideas, right? And how you can, how you implement, your ideas. So my focus is to help you identify these business ideas, is to help you really be prepared to identify your own business ideas, not the business ideas, not the 30 tips that I might give you, not 10 tips that I might give you in a presentation, in a session like this one. Now, I might come here and start to mention about 10 specific business ideas. For example, I just mentioned three. Like I say, they are great ideas. But we want to focus on something that is sustainable, right? We want to focus on activating that click of entrepreneurship within you that will help you self identify these business ideas in your own context. When we think of business ideas, for example, as I was preparing for this program, preparing for this workshop, there's something that just came to my mind. I was like, I put myself in the eyes or in the situation of the audience, in the situation of you, who is tuning in, who is listening to this presentation, right? And I was like, if I'm to attend a session or listen to a recording and be given 30 business tips, you can do A, B, C, D. You can start a daycare. You can start an online program. You can do A, B, C, D. They are great ideas. And we are probably about 30 in that room, or maybe the video recording is to have maybe 100 viewers or maybe 1,000 viewers. All of those people have had 30, have had access to 30 ideas, 30 specific ideas. Now, imagine a situation whereby you, him, her, them, are thinking about are thinking about the same idea. That is great. And we are going to talk about that, but that is great. But then already we have a crowded space, right? I might come here and talk about 30 specific ideas. I break them down. I'm like, you can start, for example, you can start a daycare, or maybe you can open an online store. You can do all of those things, right? But when it comes to business ideas, really, it's all about you as an entrepreneur, right? So today we're going to activate that click within you, right? Now, in this episode, we will focus on how we can upskill and prepare you to identify and activate business ideas for an ever changing world. Because what works now might not work tomorrow. Again, imagine me coming here with 10 tips, 10 specific business ideas, and then you're maybe watching this recording maybe 10 years later after we've made this recording, after this session has been released. You're watching it 10 years later. And some of the business ideas that you're looking at right in that presentation or that you're listening to are already exhausted. People have moved, right? The market or the clientele no longer needs that. It's no longer essential. It's no longer relevant. So when it comes to business ideas, there's always this thing of relevance. How relevant is your solution? How relevant is your proposition to the market? So in this presentation, in this episode, this is exactly what we are now focusing on. How can we build entrepreneurs? How can we develop entrepreneurs who are not only prepared to activate and to identify business ideas now, but then business ideas for the future? Because now we are living in an ever-changing world. When creating, don't think about the money. Think about how your proposition can be a solution. In what ways can you meet human needs? These are the questions that you need to think about. What kind of help are people looking for? How are they feeling? Is they experiencing these needs? And what experiences are they having, right? You need to put yourself in the shoes of your prospective clientele, right? Now, I would like to do a quick breakdown of the specific themes that we're going to focus on in this episode. The first one, we're going to talk about the dynamic nature of human needs and wants. The second aspect that we're going to look at is a post-pandemic and ever-changing world, the importance of adaptability and agility for entrepreneurs, right? Thirdly, we're going to look at business ideas for 2022 at a glance, not specific business ideas, but maybe angles that you as an entrepreneur can look at or think about. Now we're going to start by looking at the dynamic nature of human needs and wants. One exciting thing to note about change is that it is highly likely, to be highly likely that the future is informed by the past. But before we can even look at change, the concept of change, the concept of the dynamic nature of human needs and wants, I'd like for us to look at this quite simply. As an individual, as a people, we are constantly changing. We are not who we were in the past 10 years. We are not who we were in the last 5 years, in the last 2 hours. Because our opinions are constantly changing. Our thinking is constantly changing because of the different things that we are always experiencing at all times. This is human nature. We are constantly changing. Now, imagine the impact of that nature that we have as human beings on the market as a whole. How it quickly and easily changes. So we're going to focus on three specific human needs and wants. We're going to talk about mental health, mental wellness, health and well-being. We're going to talk about the need for connection and access. And finally, we're going to look at the need for convenience and efficiency, right? So this is our nature as human beings. We are constantly changing at an individual level. Our opinions are changing. What we need and what we want is constantly changing, framed by the experiences that we are always facing. But previously, right, how we are changing is also informed by past experiences, what we have experienced in the past, right? So we talked about positioning you as an entrepreneur to be able to craft business ideas beyond 2020. So even if you are to watch this recording in 2023, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, right? The goal is that you are able to apply these concepts to identify new ideas in any time set. So to study and monitor trends and changes in the way people are doing right things, you need to be rooted in the context, right? What is happening now? What is happening right now? Before now, what were people doing, and how were they doing it, and why were they doing it? Or more specifically, what human needs and wants did they have? What needs and wants did they have before now? How did they seek? And most importantly, this is always the most important question, because this is sometimes the point where we as entrepreneurs come in, right? Now I'm collectivizing it. I'm saying you and me, right? But this is the point where entrepreneurs come in now. How are people meeting these needs, right? What is their pain point, and what is the ease that they need in these processes? So understanding these needs and then seeing how they are playing out in the real world. How is this need being expressed? What is the pain point? What is their point of need? How can you meet them at that point of need, right? So human needs and wants translate to market demands and new sources. When it comes to developing business ideas that speak to consumer needs and wants, the most important thing is to listen and observe. You've decided that you're breaking into the entrepreneurship space. What will make you stand out as an entrepreneur is your ability to listen. Do not make assumptions about their pain points. Take time to listen and listen to the different experiences, then apply your reasoning. In all of it, we are all seeking to survive and achieve our greatest potentials, right? And this starts in the smallest things. Remember how we talked about storytelling in our previous episode, and that we are always telling our unique stories wherever we're going. So, in an entrepreneurial context, the question that entrepreneurs need to ask themselves is that from the very basic levels, how are people meeting their needs? What solutions can we bring to help them meet these needs? As we are living life, we are trying. This is the as we are living this life, we are trying to meet our needs. So the role of social entrepreneurs is to bring that ease, right? So how one of the things that you might want to think about, as entrepreneurs, is that as an entrepreneur is that how am I as an entrepreneur adapted, right? How am I connecting to my reality? What is happening around me, right? And trends are constantly shifting. So it's impossible. It's I think it's from my opinion, it's hard to understand and to be able to track and predict trends. When you are not attuned to being adaptable, listening and observation. So we're going to focus on 3 human needs, right? But then, you know, we talk about business ideas, so why is it important to understand human needs? Why is it important to understand wants? If you're looking for business ideas, right? And then you're thinking about business ideas as you're looking for business ideas, then it's most likely going to be difficult for you to find business ideas. Why I say so, right? Business is all about market, right? It's all about the market, right? because you're distributing resources, you're distributing services to the people who need them, right? But then what happens? What then happens when you distribute resources and um, services that are not needed? Who's going to buy them? How is it going to be a business? How is it going to be a business? So a business is a two-way transaction. So why are we talking about human needs and wants, right? The road to entrepreneurship, in my opinion, right, involves understanding human needs and wants. And then as an entrepreneur, navigating how you can then come in, right? As people are trying to meet these needs, there are challenges, there are problems, there are issues, right? So, you can probably think about it in this way that, how can I as an entrepreneur intervene? How can I come in? What challenges? How can I turn some of the problems that are here into opportunities? So we're going to focus on mental wellness, health, and well-being. Right. So let's talk about wellness, mental wellness, health, and well-being. Right. Towards the end of this episode, I'm going to talk about three specific areas of intervention where you can find business ideas, right? But it doesn't mean that these three areas that I've identified are like the limit or the boundary or, the final, like, that's it. No, right? Entrepreneurship is all about innovation. It's all about creativity, coming up with your own thing, right? But I would like to hone in on mental wellness, health, and well-being. In the first episode, I talked so much about feelings. If we are to do a word counter, to track, my usage of words in that presentation, one of the things that I tried to focus on was on feelings, right? And by doing that, I was trying to humanize the conversation that we were having in that previous episode. Bringing ideas to reality. And so this is one thing that entrepreneurs, I'd recommend that entrepreneurs really understanding the emotions and coming in as a solution. Because when it comes to marketing, one of the things that you are doing in your presentation, that you are doing in your marketing message, right, in your differentiation, in your casing, right, one of the things that you're doing to connect to those individuals, to connect to those markets, to connect to your clientele. One of the things that you're doing is connecting with them, and you can't connect with humans. It's impossible. I think it's really impossible. It's hard to connect with humans if you are suppressing the emotions, if you're not acknowledging the emotions, right? Let's think about the invention of the chair, right? That kind of technology, the invention, the chair, table, or maybe the car, right? Brought by the realization that we need ease of movement from point A to point B, and then the coming of the planes, right? In the future, that now we need to move across boundaries over long distances. We now need to transcend borders, even go to other continents without over a short period of time. What was the pain point? The pain point was that it was really impossible for that movement to happen. We needed a way to move faster, So really, it's all about. This is why we're now talking about mental wellness, health, and well-being. It's all about the emotions. This is how you can now connect to your audience, right? That in the way that they're doing things every day in their everyday lives, right? As they are meeting their needs, what are the different emotions that they're experiencing? And this is how now you are going to come in as an entrepreneur, right? Um, So talk about now the other side of mental wellness, health, and well-being. Why it's been always a need, right? And then the need for more clarity on this, and um, the need to promote mental wellness is increasing, right? As we might, as we have noticed, and especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, and now going forward, I think we all realize that mental wellness is very important. It's um, very important to performance, even in the workplace, right? Even in the home, in the family unit, right? Social stability starts with mental wellness in the home, right? So it's an actual human need, right? But then how does this translate to the world and the world of entrepreneurship, right? So I've talked about the importance of understanding the different emotional experiences that clients, markets have as they're trying to meet their needs, right? Right. So the other thing about mental wellness is information is becoming more and more accessible, and education becoming more attainable, right? Communities and individuals are becoming more aware. This is what is happening now, and this awareness is really much needed. In all honesty, right? We are becoming more aware because there's more information, increased access to education. There's this general, awareness that is there. We are different from who we were 10 years ago, because now we are informed. There is awareness about things, right? So here's another thing that is interesting about this awareness, this mental wellness movement. So when there is no alignment, I think this is one of the things that we discuss in the personality development and leadership course. So when there's no alignment between who we believe to be about ourselves and who we are currently, right? Who we believe to be about ourselves and who we are currently, we have an issue or issues. So this is a problem that we have now as a society, as individuals and communities, right? So in an entrepreneurial context, how can we as entrepreneurs provide solutions that speak to this need? This is the general, the lack that is there in our society, right? So how can we as entrepreneurs come in with solutions that speak to this need? And quite interestingly, going back now, coming now to facts, that the growth that has happened in terms of um, education in this sector, we have more individuals being trained, right, about things to do with mental wellness, and we have people dedicating their careers to issues to do with mental wellness. That shows the importance of mental wellness, right? So this is a global issue. This is a complex issue, right? It's something that is much needed on a global level. So in entrepreneurship, there are no boundaries to say this is a global issue. So how does it connect to entrepreneurship? Well, there are needs. The fact that there's a need, it means that there is a way for an entrepreneur to come in and present a solution. And you don't have to be well framed on this solution or to know really what this solution is going to look like. But the first step is in identifying the problems, being able to articulate really these mental wellness problems, right? So there's been so many developments, right? And quite specific examples, right? Um, we even have now people um, developing institutes for mental wellness, right? Mental wellness and health centers for young people, right? We're saying that in a way you're giving back to the community, but still, in one way or the other, that can be a business opportunity, right? And a part of what I've just said in the 5 minutes is going to make sense in the next 2 points that we're going to talk about: connection and access, the need for convenience and efficiency. we're going to come back to mental health and well-being. That now, we are living, again, we are leading productive lifestyles. We don't have time to make our own coffee in the morning. We don't have time to um, groom our own flower beds, right? Instead, we hire people who do it for us, right? So if you are living in such a community that you've understood that um, such a population is employed, right? Um, so you can probably start a landscaping business. Now I've become quite specific, but I'd love for you to understand really where does this come from. It first of all starts by you as an entrepreneur understanding what these human needs and wants are, and where these needs and wants are coming from. So for someone who might want to start a landscaping business, for example, you know, this might be the you might think of it this way, right? Why start a landscaping business, right? Because people don't have time to look, to groom their own gardens, right? Why start a transporting business? Well, people with 9 to 5 jobs, executives, and all of those people sometimes don't have the time to even take their own children to school. I know it is sad. It is sad, but this is the reality of what's happening now. They don't have, but then at the same time, those people need safety for their children. So look at it this way: that could be another opportunity. You start a transport business. You know, so why am I talking about these examples just in brief? Really, I'd like for you to not focus when thinking about business ideas. Don't focus on the specific details, but then focus on human needs and wants in the current context. Now let's go to connection and access. Now more than ever, we desire to be more connected with our family, friends, and employees across geographical boundaries, right? The question that we need to think of as entrepreneurs is, what challenges are we facing as we are attempting to create and sustain these connections? There's something that has been happening. If you've been observing, right, very few well few people now um, decide to stay, or maybe let me say that some people now, some people decide to move to other countries, and start working there, right? And they start to live there, right? Because sometimes, maybe the conditions in their own countries are unfavorable, and they're just looking for better lifestyles. This is reality now. This is what has been happening. Look at the trends in migration. People have been moving, like people have been changing. People moving from West Africa going to Europe. You know, it's crazy, but this is what is happening, right? So because of those changes, because of those problems, right? People need connection um, more than ever, right? So you could probably think of digital solutions, for example, digital solutions that you can low cost digital solutions. Now, I'd like to give you examples. We have money transfer systems. We have Western Union. I think Western Union is literally like global. We have World Remit, right? Um, we have, basically many international money transfer systems, right? And you would like to think of it this way, that now people have moved to different countries. People are constantly moving to different countries in search of better opportunities, and sometimes they leave their families behind in their home countries, right? And sometimes these people who move to other countries are breadwinners, and they're probably going to need a way to sustain their families, even when they are not there physically, even if they are not present, right? So How can we ensure, how can we meet this need? Well, let's come up with a money transfer system. We open an office in South Africa, we open an office in the States. A person in the US, can go and deposit money, in the state, right? And that information is connected to the branch in South Africa, right? And the relative in South Africa can collect money at the center or the office in South Africa. Money has been transferred, and how are these international these systems making money? Well, when you transfer money, there is an amount that they take, that you have to pay. They don't take this, sorry, they don't take this money. I withdraw. Imagine me being sued after this session. I'll be like, no, I was trying to make a presentation. Right? So there's a certain amount of money that you have to pay, right? For this money to be transferred, because it's a service. You can't do it for free. Things don't work like that sometimes. So you have to pay a certain amount of money. Maybe you paid $5, right? You pay $5, or maybe you pay $3, or maybe $2, right? Imagine 20 people coming in to transfer money in 2 hours, or maybe in 1 hour, to just 20 people. That means that the system has made how much money? They've made about $100 in just an hour. But the money that they are requiring for that service is really low. So here's one of the things when you come to entrepreneurial acumen. So when developing a business concept and then presenting this concept to your market, right? It shouldn't seem right. It shouldn't give the impression that you're looking for money. You're like, ha ha ha, with those those teeth. You're like, ha ha, I want your money. No, it's not going to work really. When you're going to the market, you're going to solve a problem that they have. You are going to bring the much needed relief to a problem that they have. So now I was talking about transnational migration, right, under the need for connection and access, and really taking an example of a business, a thriving business that has grown because of this problem. Right. So this is where entrepreneurship stems from. Understanding really what is happening, understanding global trends, and the potential, the challenges, the risks, that are being presented by these changes and these global trends, and how you can present a solution. Right. So we're trying to create and sustain these connections, right? So this is something that you can think of. Now, under connection and access, now I'd like for us to segue a bit into the work environment. This is a quote from the Harvard Business Review that when work becomes more geographically dispersed and managers have less insight into um, you know, managers have less insight into what work their employees are doing. Let's again contextualize it a bit. 2020, 2019, 2020, 2021, the COVID-19 pandemic was thriving. It was thriving, and a lot of people, a lot of businesses suffered. Like we can't even, the situation is bad, and it's hard to say that, the world has recovered from that, from that disaster that happened, right? That global epidemic, that global pandemic. But then what happened really when this global pandemic happened? How does the business people, how did the entrepreneurs, how did business people, adapt to this new environment? They had to um, move to virtual workspaces to keep on their businesses going, right? And you would realize that, even after such a situation that makes people to stay apart, and that um, makes physical contact impossible, right? And it's actually it's also, in another way, it's also a great opportunity, because connection, right? We are now living in a global village, right? We now I'm able to speak to you, right, because of this virtual opportunity, right? So I'm trying to really to focus on the need for connection and access. Now we are switching to virtual workspaces. We even have businesses that fully function online, right? This is a new global trend. So this is the new global trend that has come, right? So what human needs and wants are being affected along the way, right? And how are people, responding to that? And how can you, as an entrepreneur, solve a new problem that they're facing? But let's talk a bit about the work environment. So, what resources and tools will managers need to gain more insight into what into what work their employees are doing, right? What digital solutions can potentially help managers assess their employees in virtual work environments, right? What AI solution can help meet this need, right? So this is something really that you as an entrepreneur can think about. Now that we've switched to the virtual workspace, right? We have certain applications that are in place, right? Um, for allowing people to connect. But then, in as much as they are able to connect, what are some of the challenges that they are facing is they are trying to make these connections, right? The fact that the cost of internet in different countries is expensive, right? Internet access is a challenge. So how this is a pain point. So how can you as an entrepreneur develop a system that enables people to connect, right, at low cost, right? Now we're going to talk about another global trend, an emphasis on a well-rounded workforce, a mix of the hard skills and and soft skills, right? This is a global trend, right? So and this is something that speaks to both the employer and the employee, right? Employers tend to emphasize more on organizational culture and identity, right? And how that can evolve to strategically, place the company on course to achieving its goals and milestones in an adaptive and relevant manner, right? So they are looking for employees with a grit and soft skills, a mix of the hard skills and soft skills to help place their organization on strategic course. So here are some important questions here. How are hirers currently scaling potential employees' soft skills, right? How effective are these methods? What are some of the potential challenges and drawbacks of these methods? Here are some challenges, right, that we can, talk about. Biases, right? Biases can in actual fact affect how they determine a worker's suitability for a role. A human resource officer interviewing a potential employee, um, their own biases, their own unconscious biases can actually factor into that interview. And there's no fairness, things like, the different phobias that people have, right? Things like racial racial biases, for example. These are things that can actually factor in. I know these are gloomy things, right? But there's a chance that underground, somewhere there, right? They have been affecting. If you really listen to some of the stories in terms of equality, equity in the workplace, really, you would find out that these things are happening, right? And this is not something that we can directly measure or point. Say, I mean, these are things that some people always have, right? For example, like I've said, these unconscious biases, right? And this is not something that we can say now. I want to provide a business solution that is going to change the unconscious biases. No, that is really a solution from another perspective, right? That we need to from another angle. But in an entrepreneurial context, right? Employers now, right, have got this need to look for to find employers that have got a mix of hard skills and soft skills, right? So how can they build really that ideal workforce that they're looking at? What are the problems? What are the challenges, right? The challenges are that sometimes the people who actually maybe have got the combination of the soft skills and the hard skills don't have access to these opportunities because they don't make it in the first place. So how can we develop systems that help us find the right people? Right? This is the pain point. How can we have systems, methodologies that enable us to connect to the right people, find the right people, sustain those right people, right? And quite interestingly, this is according to the Harvard Business Review 2022, and this is the information that is coming from there. Managerial tasks will be automated going forward, right? So you as an entrepreneur, now you've understood, and really sometimes you need to think beyond, really, right? That when we're talking about business ideas, think beyond opening a shop, right? A clothing shop, a boutique. It's a good business idea, right? But then think about demand. And one of these things, this issue that I've just been talking about is something that is in high demand right now. That hiring officers, that managers, that executives are looking for. How can we find the right people? Because the right people out there, universities are churning out a lot of graduates, and some of these graduates really have got the soft skills too, but then they don't have access to the right opportunities. So how can we bridge really this gap? What AI, artificial intelligence solutions can we present to meet these needs? Because we know that these unconscious biases, right? Coming back to one of the things, one of the projected challenges in the hiring process that we've been talking about, the issue of unconscious biases. We know that these unconscious biases are a potential risks, sorry, a potential risk to building a quality, diverse, and inclusive workforce, right? Because this is what we're looking for. We're looking for diverse, inclusive, and quality workforces. And we do know that we can program artificial intelligence to look into what we would like for it to look at, right? Right? So there might be an opportunity there. I don't know, someone who's listening to this, and you're someone who is into tech. You feel like you have an idea that has been burning, and you feel like this is a problem that you'd like to resolve. But one of the things that I would love to emphasize here while I'm talking about artificial intelligence is looking at this issue not from one perspective, right? Because entrepreneurship requires you to unblock your thoughts and think from all angles, not to limit your thinking, not to limit your innovation, right? Because again, this artificial intelligence that's going to come in, because this is something that has been predicted, right? Um, we also need to think about the potential problems that it might present. Now, this is a global trend, but what potential pain point might this artificial intelligence that is now coming present, right? It's going to affect the role of managers. Because if we use artificial intelligence during the application process, we design applications, that enable us to identify the right people with the hard skills and the soft skills. We design applications that enable us, that do the hiring process for us, right? That scan documents, that look at documents, that peruse through documents, and potentially even recorded interviews, right? But then we need to look at the potential impacts of this artificial intelligence. We are saying that it might potentially cut an entire workforce, because we have generations who have tied their learning plans and lives to specializing in human resources, right? So if we cut them loose only because we are bringing a solution, Are we not creating another challenge? So one of the questions that we can also ask ourselves here is, how can we develop our hirers? And without replacing human resources, how can artificial intelligence play complementary roles? Perhaps we can have digital tools programmed to bring more fairness into the hiring process, right? Complementing human resources. And then I'd also like to emphasize that it's not about digital solutions only. We even need human resource solutions. So we've been talking about soft skills development, and this is something that is much needed, right? So how does meeting this need look like? For some schools that have been able to adapt, soft skills training and development is something that is now a part of their framework, right? Again, this is a need in the education sector. So now what I'm doing in this episode is now highlighting some of the needs in these identified sectors, in these critical sectors, right, at this time, right now. So now your job as an entrepreneur, moving from this workshop, right, your task now is to look at some of the needs that we have identified, and even identify some of your own needs and think, really, how can I present a solution? And here are some questions to think about. How can prospective workforces be taught how to develop their soft skills? In Singapore, right now, there's a youth-led startup called Skillio, right? And their mission is to personalize soft skill development through measurement and analytics for individuals and organizations to be future ready. So what they do exactly, for students, right, is that students you basically get to create an online portfolio that sort of like looks like LinkedIn, but then it's not LinkedIn, it's Skillio, where you document your experiences using artifacts. These artifacts are in the form of work samples, certifications, and project assignments, right? So when they sign up on this portfolio, they then receive personalized AI, right, artificial intelligence, assistive recommendations, and insights, helping them to track their soft skills development. This is an example of a youth-led startup in Skillio, and the portfolio is free, if I'm not mistaken, right? So what Skillio did, if we're now analyzing it at a glance, right, what they did was to identify a need. What is the need in this sector, in the human resource sector? What is the need that is there? Well, hiring managers are looking for people with a mix of hard skills and soft skills. But then this need is not only creating more needs and wants for the employers who are hiring, it's also creating more needs and wants for the future employees who are going to need to be hired. How can they develop? How can they grow their soft skills? How can they track their soft skills? This is a need. Imagine coming up with new work, right, that speaks to this need, right? Um, you know, Finally, we're going to talk about the need for convenience and efficiency in the 21st century. Oh my gosh, we are now living in an age, where there's increased need for convenience and speed. We don't have the time. The time? No. When you hear someone saying you're wasting my time, like you're literally wasting my time, like know for sure that you're wasting their time, because people don't have time. People don't have time to do things. People don't have time, um, really, right? There's this increased need for convenience and speed. We just need to get things done, and we don't have the time to wait because we are busy people and need to get other things done. This is the reality, right, of life as it is right now, right? Imagine the idea of an Uber, right? an Uber. When you visit their website, click, just go like Uber, right? Uber. This is their statement. Interesting. Get a ride in minutes. I'd like for you to pause and think, really, pause and think, reflect a bit on that statement on their website, right? Get a ride in minutes. Wouldn't you want to get a ride in minutes? Wouldn't you want to get to the next point in just minutes? Right? So if we are to analyze it and think about it really, what they are doing is responding to a need. People don't have the time right now, and they need to get a lot of things done. Right? So, as I've said from the start, I'm trying to challenge you really to think beyond and have the entrepreneurial mindset, right? I've heard of this saying, right? That if you teach, a man, you give a man fish, you give someone fish, they eat that night. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have fish to eat. We have a dish. Ooh. They eat. That's it. Tomorrow, done. But you go to that person and you teach them how to fish, they are not going to starve. And you're not going to have to go there anymore. Right? So, what I've been doing really is to challenge you, right? To give you the mind, sorry, to help you find the mindset, to help you develop the mindset to find business ideas. If I come here and give you 30 listed business ideas, what impact is that going to have on you? What impact is that going to achieve on you? You're going to peruse, you will peruse, like you might peruse through my list, my 30 crafted list of business ideas in 2022. And you're like, what business can I probably start here? And you're like, oh, no, let me look at this one. Let me take this one. I think this one is interesting. And then, you start the business along the way. It crumbles, it dies, right? The honest truth, you started something, you restricted your potential. You would have restricted your potential because you could have started something of your own. But when it comes to ideas, I think we discussed this during the episode 1 when we talked about bringing ideas to reality. That when it comes to business ideas, it doesn't always have to be revolutionary. Doesn't always have to be the very first. Even something that is already existing. Think of a different way, right, of meeting that need in your own way. And I'm happy that in the past we've had the personality development and leadership course. If you've been able to follow through that personality development and leadership course, which is available here on Swan Livelihood's YouTube channel, right? If you Google that, we have that course, right? If you follow through that course, and now if you're able to follow through this the new entrepreneurship series, I have the strong conviction that you'll be able to start something great. Because when you're going to come now to the market with a business idea, you're not coming up with a business idea with someone else's business idea. The personalization of saying someone else's business idea doesn't come in the fact that there's an element of it coming from the fact that it was innovated by them. But then there's a unique way that they do it. Right? In other terms, this is called organizational cultures. In other terms, right? In group terms, right? This is called organizational culture, where we talk about how an organization or an entity differentiates itself, right? Its mission, its purpose, and its value, right? How it seeks to do things differently. But then you as an entrepreneur, if you have not understood yourself, this is why we have the self-awareness, We had so many modules under the personality development and leadership course, and even under this course, the first module that we had was bringing ideas to reality. So you can understand you can tap into your own creativity and bring a business idea that works. So coming back to the fact that there's a need for convenience and efficiency. We don't have the time to wait, right? There's also this frustration because we have a lot of things to focus on, right? Um, we have a lot on our plates. We've got busy schedules, right? We have so many things to focus on and to think about. We can't stand any frustration in our way, right? Think of it this way: it's Wednesday, right? And my workload is heavy. Like my workload is super heavy already. Like, so the last thing that I need really is facing delays, transport delays, right? Or maybe it's not Wednesday. It's another day, and then I woke up at 8:30. I go for a 9 to 5, and I'm not going to have time for breakfast at home. But then I need to shower and go. Do you understand? Small things like this really matter, honesty. Small things, you know. If Uber was thinking about the big things like, oh, when they probably started in their transport system, if they're thinking like, oh, what a big transport system can we introduce with cars and so many things. Like if they were thinking about the specific, they were thinking of things like that. Maybe I don't know, how that business would have thrived, right? But then realizing the need that was there, now we have an effective transport systems that is transport system that is thriving because we have people who understand our need for convenience and efficiency, right? So what if I could offer, I woke up at 8:30, but then what if I could order food to go, right? So we are too busy, to self-manage. Now we even have, I was having a discussion with my friend the other day, like this watch, wristwatch, that reminds you to breathe, like it's time to take a breather. Or even mobile applications that we now have that you can even set goals, you know fitness goals, they'll even set a schedule for you and so many things, right? This there was a realization that we need to exercise, but then we are too busy to come up with our own schedules. We are too busy that we forget that we need to take a breather every now and then, right? So it's the small things that matter. And now this is another challenge that we have in the 21st century. We are too busy to manage ourselves. We are too busy to self-manage the small things in our world, right? And on our own. So this is where people can come in, right? We convert challenges, problems into opportunities. So in a world where lifestyles are increasingly busy and complicated, we need external influences to help us cope and manage. Okay, here's another one. So think of all the places where people have to wait much longer than they would need to. And these places don't have to be physical, right? Even online, where would people like to get things done much faster? What processes need improvement? And then we feel that, oh, here's another one. We feel that, oh, doing things on ourselves, by ourselves is boring, right? And just tedious, right? So we are always looking for ways to bring more ease and convenience into our lifestyles. If we stay in an apartment and have a 9 to 5, we're probably too busy to notice that the things around us. Take care of our flower gardens and things like that. So there are many opportunities, like I've said, the landscaping business. Hopefully, we're going to have our very own landscaper you know, landscaping business owner, right, from this program, from the this session, right? So there are so many opportunities, really, if we are to look at it, if we are to look at business ideas and starting businesses, not being about starting businesses, but being about meeting people at their points of need, right? Now we're going to talk about um, a post-pandemic and ever-changing world, the importance of adaptability and agility for entrepreneurs, right? So, what kinds of challenges did the COVID-19 pandemic present? Many, right? What impacts did it have on the way people do things every day? What new needs did people, as a result, have, as a result of these impacts? So, first of all, safety and security, right? And this was during the pandemic, and even now, to do that, people would need masks and hand sanitizers, right? Now, think about, for example, venturing into this new enterprise, what that might have looked like, might have been, people were retrenched, people were laid off during the COVID-19 pandemic. There was no, things were hard, things were unpredictable, but maybe if you had the opportunity to look at what is now happening. So this is the importance of mindfulness for entrepreneurs. You need to be engaged in what is happening around you, not only as an entrepreneur, but even as a person. What are the things that people need, right? For example, imagine meeting, because there was now need, for example, quite simplistically, in simplistic terms, quite simply saying, there was need for hand sanitizer, for example, there was need for face masks, right? Now think about how venturing into this enterprise might have looked like, for example, right? And you didn't have to know, or you don't have to know how to make hand sanitizers. I mean, Google is your friend. Like, Google is literally your friend. Like, just go to Google. How can I make hand sanitizer, homemade hand sanitizer? And you start from there. And over time, you develop that concept, you develop that idea. You start to look for new ingredients, new alternatives, right? You develop your ingredients to make your product more competitive, right? This is something that you could have done. So go to Google. How can I make hand sanitizer? Imagine you could have started your own business, like, literally. Just saying. And then with, what new services do people need during the COVID-19 pandemic? I mean, because we practically had to limit our movements and be at home at all times, and we still needed access to basic services and all that we needed, right? So there's no doubt that the demand for home deliveries and online express practically increased during this time. And um, it soared, right? So the COVID-19 pandemic took us by surprise, no doubt, right? So as an entrepreneur, it disrupted things and it brought a lot of uncertainty, right? But what can we learn about this in relation to creating value as entrepreneurs, right? Two things that we can learn. We can learn adaptability, right? We learn how to be listeners as entrepreneurs, right? So one of the things that I would like to remind you is that when developing a business concept, don't think too hard, or think about what revolutionary idea you can bring to the market, like as I've previously shared. So it's not necessarily about introducing a new product or service, but throughout your ideation and iteration, right? When you develop your idea, right? You need to think about differentiation and casing as well, right? This is what is important. It's not about a new idea or a new concept or a revolutionary idea or a new concept. I'm sure if you're an entrepreneur right now, you're probably thinking about an idea that you might have had, like, oh, actually, at one point in time, I had this idea of starting this business. Now go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Okay. Go for it. Okay. So you're probably like, maybe your business idea or something is something that is already there. You're like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to come up with a brand new business idea? I mean, the world is super advanced right now. So what new idea can I bring to the market? What new idea can I come up with? Like I've said, when developing a business idea or when thinking about a business idea, don't think about a business idea, but think about human needs and wants. This is the first principle that I'm sharing with you, that I've um, developed, that I've um, thought of, right? Think about human needs and wants. This is number one. Number two, think about your differentiation and casing, which is your how and why. So put yourself in the mind or in the situation of the customer. Why would I, as a customer, want your product? Why do I need your service? Why should I get it from you exactly? Specifically, why your product? Why your service? Why you? So many times, this differentiation is not something that's going to come by thinking lightly, but it requires thinking about what you would like to teach the world, what story you would like to tell the world. And this story doesn't have to be concrete and told out there, right? It doesn't, right? Like the thinking that goes like how you frame ideas. You don't have to tell people about that, because there is this thing that also happens in the world of entrepreneurship and social engineering. All of these things, people steal ideas, and I don't want to lie. During your ideation phase, don't just share your idea with everyone. I know we're immediately drawn to like, yeah, let me talk. It's great to talk to people. It's great to share with your friends, right? But then, like I've said, like I've shared during in the first module, like when it comes to ideation, it's your own time and your own zone. By all means possible, try to be alone until you've developed and framed that concept, right? So the most important thing is that you personally understand the story that you want to tell the world, right? Um, and then now we're going to look at business ideas at a glance. Yay! Right? We're going to look at a few specific business ideas at a glance, right? So that you at least get an idea of where some of the things that you might maybe look at. But then in the very first half, the most part of this episode was on helping you develop the mindset for developing business ideas and for finding business ideas. So I'm not going to go into the depths, the ins and outs of these business ideas, right? Because my focus, my mission, and my purpose here was to help you attain that mindset. That is my focus and my mission. If you've been able to develop that mindset, if you've been started to think about it, not necessarily develop that mindset, because developing a mindset, that mind is a process, right? But if you've started to think about it, then yes, we are on track. I'm happy, really excited for you. So these business ideas, I'm just going to we're just perusing through. We're not going to look at them in depth, right? Because like I've said, Google is your friend. You can go to the internet, find more information about these ideas and learn really how you can venture into them, right? And then one of the things, is that when I come here, to share with you, I intently focus on my mission, which is on supporting people, supporting individuals to realize their innate potential. This is what I do, and this is what I'm all about, right? And that is what I exactly focus on. If you ask me about real estate, I am not in real estate, so I can't go to Google and then come to you and then throw that information at you, right? What if it's not something that if it's not your great idea? What if it's not your highest potential? And by coming to you and then throwing this information at you, I'm actually being counterproductive, right? So here are some business ideas that you can think about, right? So the key to financial freedom, one of the tips for financial freedom: investment. Invest, right? Invest as much as you can, right? Through all of these methods that I've just listed here: cash, real estate, stocks, bonds, right? And then I think during my entire presentation, during my entire sharing, I touched on these three sectors mainly. I touched on the digital and technical solutions, right? When it comes to digital and technical solutions, now this is something that I'm speaking, right? The key is to and learn. It's not for them. Trust me. When it comes to digital, when it comes to things to do with social media, I used to think that it's about other people. Like literally, like it's always about other people. The other people have got the tech skills. But trust me, these tech skills were created by other people. It's other people who to think about them. So these are things that we can learn because these are systems that have been developed. So digital and tech skills, technical solutions are not for them, are not for other people. You can do it as well. Human capital solutions, the things that we've been talking about, what are some of our needs right now in our workspaces, right? And things like that, you know. And under human capital solutions, right? Um, what skills, I think this is what you need to think about when you think about business ideas within this sector. What skills are much needed now that you can complement some of these skills, some of these skills that are much needed right now in 2022 include communication, process improvement, business development, change management, and so much more, right? So this is something that you can focus on, and the fact that these are things that are in much need are backed by evidence. If you Google right now what skills are in much need right now, and you look at credible sources that appear on Google, you can actually find that it's true. It's really true that the skills that I've mentioned here are in need and are in much needed. So you're probably like, so how does this relate to business? How can I start a business venture in this area? So you need to use your talents to venture into these different sectors, right? So there are limitless opportunities really when you start to think about it, right? Then you think of the resource solutions, how our everyday solutions and how can we complement them, right? So now we head on to our concluding reflections for today's session, right? A few things that I would like to share, right? Don't be a perfectionist as an entrepreneur, right? One, I would say, um, because if you're trying to be a perfectionist, especially when you're identifying an idea, like you're literally thinking, and then you're like, this idea doesn't work because it has been taken by other people. Or you're like, this idea is, it's just not going to work. I don't think it's going to work, or it's not for me. No, 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 no. What you need to do is to develop your thought process. And one of the things that is really helpful is writing down. Write all of those ideas down. You follow through, you ideate during the ideation process that you talked about in the previous course. And if you've just started on if you just started watching this course, you are able to access the previous course that we did under this entrepreneurial series. In that first module, bringing ideas to reality, I talk about where these ideas come from, how you can connect, how you can attune to that. And I talk about thought process, right? I talk about ideation, right? And how you can unleash those ideas, how you can unleash those ideas from imagination to reality. So I recommend that you click on the link, you go research that first module where we talk about ideation and really gain insights. And then finally, be a continuous learner. Open mindedness is critical, right? Observation, right? And then finally, one very important thing is you grow your concept. Think about sustainability. Can my business idea potentially evolve over time, right? And in what ways can it evolve? I hope that this session has been helpful for you and that you've attained the thinking, the mindset that you need to find business ideas in 2022 and beyond. As usual, feel free to post your comments in the chat section. Any questions that you have, we will engage and do our best to answer your questions, and we would be happy to connect with you. Don't hesitate to stay engaged, stay focused, stay authentic, and stay true to yourself. Thank you.